the fact that billionaires have just really continuously put their boot on our necks as I kind of look at it as a weed that's like going down and twisting around all parts of our government and society, wrapping its way around just down deep and deep around like people's lives and politicians and policy and oversight and regulation.
Hey, it's Jordan. I am in Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, Tumwa, Iowa. Please support the only independent outlet on the ground covering what the corporate media covers up. Hey, it's Jordan. Happy to be joined by Jim DiBartolo. He is the author of a new graphic novel, Fuck Billionaires. And what better time? We're recording right after the spectacle of the world's richest man taking over the Oval Office yesterday, Elon Musk. President Musk and Vice President Trump stood side by side. So your graphic novel has been out for a little while. You have a Kickstarter campaign, Fuck Billionaires. Billionaires should not exist. We'll get to it, but what prompted this, and I could kind of connect with a little bit, you had a hell of an ordeal starting a few years ago with your back, your spine, dealing with the for-profit predators in the health insurance industry. So tell us kind of what happened with you and what you had to deal with.
Sure. First off, thanks for having me on, Jordan. I'm a fan of your reporting and style of reporting for years. I very much appreciate you making the time to have me. Hello, viewers. Thank you for watching. So Fuck Billionaires is a 280-page graphic novel that I started about 2 years ago. It is still in the works. It's not quite out yet. It's on Kickstarter, like you mentioned. I'm trying to raise funds to be able to hire a colorist assistant to help me finish coloring it and to pay for the printing and distribution and whatnot. And
by the way, as a published author now myself, I can tell you it's not cheap, particularly colored. I sound like an 85-year-old, like you said, but colored prints, not cheap. Go on.
Yeah. I have the campaign going right now. It's live on Kickstarter for another 9 days, and it's to pull back the veil a little bit, it's over half of the funds I'm asking for, like well over half, go for the printing of the book, then the printer mailing me the book, hiring the colorist, Kickstarter fees, taxes, etc. So anyway, so the book itself, I'm targeting to mail it out in August. I started it 2 years ago. I'm a writer and illustrator. I've published numerous books over the years, comic books, kids graphic novels, teen stuff, adult stuff. My wife and I worked for a National Book Award about 10 years ago. So I know how to finish a book, is what I'm saying. There's about 200 pages drawn. I have a completed script. So it's not something that's like a risk to the backers. I know how to meet deadlines. To answer your question as far as what generated it, so I've had like a long-standing love-hate relationship with politics. It's always so frustrating that you have that wave of surge of, yeah, we can do it, and oh God, how are we going to get out of this? And I'm a lefty, but I have people that I love in my life who are right wingers. The book is of course, from my more leftist perspective, but I don't feel like it's exclusionary to audiences in general, because while there's so much and always will be, and left and right sort of battle, there's also that top-down sort of like the boot coming down on all of our necks, that 0.1% really. 3 years ago, 10 years ago, I started having back problems, had a minor surgery, had another minor surgery during COVID, and that didn't do the trick. The first one did the trick for a number of years and then stopped doing the trick. So I had to get a second, which didn't do anything, and then I had to get a third. My insurance company, to kind of make it all into a nutshell, they agreed to pay for it, or a portion of it, and gave me an authorization to cover it. I had the surgery and then got a bill for $85,000 because pre-authorization is not a guarantee of payment. and they had basically said, no, actually, we're not going to cover the surgery you had, even though it was something recommended by my surgeon. It's not anything that's like, voodoo or some sort of experimental thing, even though they called it experimental.
Was this a health insurance company that's been in the news lately?
No, it was a Providence health insurance, okay. And so yeah, just a quick tip. It became almost like a full-time job trying to, even before the surgery, trying to get them to commit to covering it. And then I had to take money out of my retirement, as small as it was, to pay for stuff in advance that I knew they wouldn't cover. And anyhow, but to your listeners out there, and this is probably something that a lot of people aren't aware of, you will never or rarely win against your insurance company. I got the advice from a random show that I was watching in all of my deep dive and research to kind of give up on trying to win against the insurance company and try other avenues. And one of them was, the one that worked out, was calling my hospital, which had the large portion of the bill, and just explaining to them the situation. It was their financial aid department. It was explained to me that even if you don't qualify for financial aid, based on the circumstances, they still have the magic wand ability to be able to say, given the circumstances and the evidence you've provided, we're waiving that bill. So like literally after a year, I got a phone call from this guy who like refused. I couldn't even like send him like a coupon for a free lunch or something. He was like, nope, this is my job. And but he was like like almost like an angel to me, like just getting that waived, and that freedom of feeling that weight of how on earth am I going to pay for this? So, but a little tip to the audience is like reach out to financial aid at doctors' offices, hospitals, whatnot, and there is a case to be made sometimes, because the insurance companies do not care.
And let me ask you, I mean, I had 2 back surgeries, so mentally and physically, I was in anguish for a bit. I had a big bill, not $85,000, about like $7,000, that I just said, fuck you, I'll give you $5 a month indefinitely. Anyway, they agreed to cut it in half, and I paid it off after a few years. But mentally and physically, if you were in that chronic back pain and then you get a bill for $85,000, I'm assuming you were spiraling for a bit there.
Absolutely. So again, leading up to it, there was the whole like, will they, won't they pay for it? I was doing all these, jumping through hoops basically to try to get them to cover it. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here. At the time, I was working on another book of mine, and again, this is this is 3 years ago or so, or no, it was like 3.5 years ago. Anyway, but while I'm sitting here in my studio at home working, and my leg would go numb, my foot would go numb, my back would start throbbing, so I'd have to like lie down for a few minutes to relieve that, then get back up, start drawing again, and then my leg would go numb again and lie down. And I don't know if anybody knows stuff about nerve pain, but you can have nerve damage because like the discs in your vertebrae like bulge out, hit the nerves that run down from your brain down to your tailbone, or down to your toes basically, and it sticks out and it pinches the nerve, and it cuts off like your hips and your knees and your ankles and all this kind of stuff. And so I was in agony. I was in agony.
Not to steal your thunder there of suffering, but 2016, I was traveling when I was at the Young Turks. My back hurt. Standing Rock in 2016, 2017, I kind of hit it, but I was in a lot of pain. I slipped a few times, which didn't help on ice. I was getting a chiropractor. 2017, he kept telling me, yeah, you don't need an MRI, but it wasn't getting any better. Finally, I got an MRI. My L5 disc had been on my S1 sciatic nerve for so long that a piece of my disc had broke off, and it was stuck in my spinal cavity. I didn't even know that was a thing, a spinal cavity. Right. And I had spasm going all down my hamstring, my calf, and my whole left foot was completely numb. Yeah. And they, did the reflex. They bang your knee at the doctor to get a reflex. I had reflex there, but I had no reflex in my Achilles. The doctor said, if we don't get you in for surgery like ASAP, you're probably going to lose feeling permanently.
Right. That's what I was.
I still have a little numbness in my like toe area, but for the most part, my feeling is back. But it's really excruciating pain. What you had?
Yeah, and at times that I had to like lie down face down on the bed for I had to like exist for that for a couple weeks. My wife would bring food to me on the ground that I would eat off the floor or off a little stool.
I actually got one of those massage, if you go get a massage, they have the hole that you put your face through.
Oh, sure.
So
sure.
I got that and attached it off the bed because I was on my stomach for days before surgery. But my neck was hurting, so I like got that to hang off the bed. So yeah, we had similar things there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the part of the situation is, you can't put things off for too long because the nerve damage will eventually, you can get all of it back if it's temporary. If the cutting it off and damaging it goes on too long, you'll have permanent damage of varying levels, and that's kind of what I have too in my right foot, which is frustrating, obviously. And but yeah, so all these things kind of between my political like love of Bernie Sanders after being introduced to him by Tom Hartman years ago in Brunch with Bernie, that segment on his show. That's where I also learned of Greg Palast, who you recently interviewed, just the OG guy. But the situation with the book kind of was born out of just frustration. I know Luigi Mangione, who we can talk about or not, like my book is similar, but very, 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 very different than that situation. But I only bring it up because I announced the existence of this book after working on it for 2 years. I announced the existence of it online, and literally the next day, the CEO was unalived. Assuming that he is the culprit, his Mangione's Twitter has the back thing, and I'm in my mind, I haven't actually said this aloud, but like if it's him, like he picked up a gun, whereas I picked up a pen and started working on a graphic novel out of just sort of like, man, between politics of just money in politics and so much of the rich, they're not necessarily the only problem, but money in society that is being hoarded, like you mentioned, Musk. I mean, it's I started it again 2 years ago, and I feel like every day I've been working on it, it's just become more and more relevant. The fact that billionaires have just really continuously put their boot on our necks as I kind of look at it as a weed that's like going down and twisting around all parts of our government and society, wrapping its way around just down deep and deep around like people's lives and politicians and policy and oversight and regulation, and allowing laws for them to be able to finally like use stocks as collateral to get loans from the government, whereas that didn't used to be a thing. And I'll point out that a lot of people are probably aware of this, but the difference between $1 million and even $1 million, which is a ton of money or a large number in itself, and $1 billion, you probably are able to rattle these off, Jordan, and I'm sure your audience is too. But like, if you were to give someone $5,000 a day for 6 months, they would be a millionaire. But you'd have to give someone $5,000 a day for 547 years for them to be a billionaire. So that's before Magellan set sail. You'd have to give a person $5,000 a day in order for them to be a 1 billionaire now. Most billionaires are multi-billionaires, so we're talking, much more than that over a longer period or whatnot. And it's just really frustrating. People will reflexively stick up for billionaires, almost as if, I don't know if it's like a Pavlovian thing to want to respect somebody who's achieved this wealth, or if it's something that they think that they'll be able to achieve that wealth themselves. But they don't realize that most billionaires, it's like something almost like 70% of billionaires came from generational wealth. All of them came from the labor of others. Nobody, as Jesse Ventura will say, nobody works hard enough to earn $1 billion. I don't care what sort of job you're doing. It's all taking place because of wealth interfering in politics. You can't separate the two. They've made it so legislation through their donations and their bribes, literally bribes, to politicians to change laws in their benefit, be it tax laws, be it regulation laws, be it labor laws, so they can make people work longer hours for crappier conditions. You hear about the Amazon workers and their horrible conditions. I'm sure you've covered like a million stories like that on the ground, Jordan, in your like really unique reporting. People just being constantly taken advantage of by the wealthy. And I'm pointing out billionaires, and certainly the problem is also multimillionaires and CEOs that aren't super wealthy. But when you break it down, the level of pay between the average worker and a CEO, used to be like this, and now it's gotten to the point where they're both like off the screen in comparison to one another. And it's not getting better. My story, I'm sure we'll cover it in a sec here, but like it's something where the wealthy have gotten used to getting away with kind of everything they want, getting their way more and more. And the only thing that will bring about in the real world, bring about change is taxation worldwide and/or regulation and oversight, really clamping down. Because if one country does it and others don't, then they'll just go hide their money. They'll invest in AI, NFTs, crypto, real estate, and it's out of control. And I think people more and more every day are kind of realizing, oh, maybe, it's not like there's an unlimited amount of money for the entire world and we can all be trillionaires. Oxfam 5 years ago said there would be 1 trillionaire in the next 10 years. And they just recently changed that so that they now see it, well, there'll be 5 trillionaires in the next 10 years. There's not that enough money and resources to be able to have trillionaires walking around with that amount of wealth. I saw a video recently where a guy was breaking down that with somebody who becomes a trillionaire could buy the NFL, all NFL teams, all baseball teams, all hockey teams, all basketball teams, and he listed off huge corporations like Ford, GM, all these other things, and still have $10 billion left over. Although they could buy them all three times over, and they'd still have $10 billion left over.
I'm curious what you think about right now, because, obviously what Trump and Musk are doing is just in your face, just straight up, unabashed, unshamed corruption. Yeah. But we already kind of had a coup in this country. It was just a more civilized coup. The corruption, the billionaires purchased the government before Trump. It was just kind of quietly, you find it through the, FEC filings and the fundraisers, but it wasn't in your face. They weren't standing next to the president in the Oval Office. Now it's just in your face. And it seems that liberals were kind of okay with the previous form of corruption and billionaires running things, as long as those billionaires supported, gay people and social issues. But now that the billionaires are just openly standing at the press conferences or openly behind Trump at the inauguration, suddenly it's a coup. I think it is a coup, but where was the outrage before then?
Certainly, yeah. And like I say, I started this book 2 years ago. So, Biden was in the White House, all that, Pelosi was, running things behind the scenes and fundraising off of, like you say, the billionaires. Certainly, like I consider myself a leftist who Bernie doesn't go far enough left for a number of the things that I would like to see change. And it's frustrating because the wealthy will just continue to hoard and continue to do what they can to grow in power. And it's frustrating to see the left when I kind of look at them as sort of like the center left, the Clintons and Obamas and much of Congress that consider themselves Democrats. Their willingness to take that corporate money, their willingness to, because billionaires were getting richer under Obama and Biden, and certainly there wasn't the clampdown that there was, back decades ago. The number of billionaires and their rate of growth in the past couple decades is just crazy. There used to be a 90% tax on the ultra rich decades ago, and that kept billionaires from existing. So again, to tie it into my story, like the I know we'll talk about it more in a minute, but like the just the existence of them, it shows like a rot in morality of the people in charge, because they're allowing themselves to be bought. And it used to be something where there was oversight and regulation, and now, again, like you're saying with Trump, just and Musk, it's a trampling of stuff. I mean, right before his inauguration, he had basically a crypto rug pull, where it went from on Friday night $0 on that Trump coin to by Sunday morning it was $70 billion value. I'm sure it dropped in value a lot, but that was, I think, Ford and FedEx combined, the value of that. What is it? What that non-existent sort of coin, that it was just in your face. I'm going to get rich. I'm going to take advantage of my followers. They're going to spend millions and lose millions, but I'm going to make money. And it's just such like a naked display of corruption, and the fact that it's legal somehow. It's wild to me. It's absolutely insane that there's no way to just go, you know what, that's illegal and you're out of office. But that instead, nope, just right on going the next day,
And for you, I mean, obviously you're trying to raise money to get this graphic novel out. What do you think, what is your main message? Because people hear "fuck the billionaires" and say, yeah, but what do you think having it kind of laid out in this, aesthetically interesting way can do to, push the conversation forward?
Sure. Well, so can I talk about give a little bit of a elevator pitch for what the story kind of outline is frame. So the story it's a fictional story that has facts and statistics borrowed from our world, plugged into this story. It begins basically with the large graffiti message appearing on numerous skyscrapers around the world that reads, "Billionaires should not exist. Get ready." The 1% ignore it. The media rushes to cover it. The fact that it's on numerous skyscrapers, there's no witnesses to it. There's no group step forward saying, "I saw who graffitied," or "I'm responsible for it," or whatever. So it's this tantalizing story, and the fact that it happens sort of coordinated starts being covered by the media. The story is told through the perspective of the main characters and a group of characters in the story that come from various lifestyles and whatnot. But it's also told through a variety of media. There's social media posts, so you can kind of see, again, I mentioned the CEO unaliving, how it immediately the reaction online was very had a very strong opinion. I sort of had the similar thing happen, but this is stuff I was working on long before. So I'm like, hey, that happened. And anyway, so it's covered through the media. It's covered through a reporter who's a man on the street like yourself, Jordan. It's covered through a reporter, morning show lady who has a show, a national syndicated show. There's agents covering the mystery and what eventually becomes a crime. And it's a story where the billionaires kind of scramble a little bit to find out like who's behind this, and it's a little bit it's a little bit and then the media is like billionaires are great, and they have other guests on. No, actually billionaires are hoarding and taking away resources from the rest of us, and we're having to cover the tax burden that they're shifting over onto us by not paying taxes. And it's this sort of debate about that. But then the night of that first graffiti tagging, a billionaire dies in a mysterious and brutal fashion, and on his skyscraper the message is left, one down, who's next? Billionaires should not exist. And that 1% takes it very seriously, scrambles to call in favors. They are a group, again, in this fictional world. They're a group who are used to winning. They are used to having people at their beck and call. They're calling in favors to politicians. They have private security, all this sort of things that they're trying to find out who's responsible, find them, get them caught. And meanwhile, they're basically being posed with the question, your money or your life. And, I want to point out that I am not calling for vigilante action. I'm an anti-war, anti-death penalty guy. I'm no more calling for vigilante action than a horror movie director is calling for horny teens to be hunted down at their summer camp. But it is something that I feel like fiction is a great escape, and thriller, revenge fiction is a great escape. I think in these times, and I think people will find things that happen in this story cathartic. I feel like everything, again, is told through a cast of characters. There's humor, there's a little bit of romance, there's violence, there's politics, there's a through line that is followed that is clear. There's no like mystery at the end. It has a resolution that I think people will find surprising and unexpected, but also right when it comes, like as far as it makes sense. Sometimes you watch a movie, you read a book, you're like, what exactly happened? That won't be the case here. So
my last question to you.
Sure.
You're kind of a traditional lefty, a Bernie bro, so to speak. Talk about writing this through the wave. You had Bernie Woodstock 2016, 2020. It looked like he was, we were close on the 5-yard line.
Yeah.
Then the crash comes, he's with his good friend Joe. Bernie kind of disappears. The squad, kind of goes along to get along. A few exceptions, but and now, there is really no organized left, at least speaking of elected officials, and even outside. We still have protest movements, but obviously, we've already described the coup going on.
Yeah.
So, as a leftist writing this, what's your message to other leftists in terms of what we could actually do with a void in elected leadership and movement leadership?
Wow, that's a big question and a good one. And
I don't have the answer. That's for sure.
Well, all I can say is, you see, just before we got on together, there was I don't think it was leaked. I think it was just released that Hakeem Jeffries and other Dems were expressing their frustration at people calling up, expecting them or wanting them to do more.
Right.
And I'm like, that whole, we're not in power. This is their government. This is what people voted for. And it's like, my guy, you are not the person, and Schumer is not the person for this moment. We need more power, more passionate leadership. I would say, hopefully, and the guy, his name's escaping me, who got the position that AOC was vying for recently, who the 74-year-old cancer.
Gerald Connolly.
Thank you. Yeah. It's frustrating because I keep saying frustrating because I feel like there are things to do. Obviously we can make phone calls, and I think that is likely probably the one among the better things to be able to do to force them. The protests, I'm sure, out on the street are very helpful and very unifying, and do send a message. It's frustrating that our media is so bought. Again, talking about how money sways people in the politics, in the media, certainly. And I guess my message is, as a creative person who, through my frustration, like you mentioned, of seeing Bernie get close, but then not in 2016, and then get closer in 2020, and then not, and kind of being bit off or pushed away by Obama and the other the lesser left. It's frustrating because there was what we could have had with a Bernie. But I would say, if people have an avenue for for solidarity with people that they agree with. If there's a creative avenue, for me, I'm like I say, I'm picking up a pen and a pencil and I'm drawing and writing this graphic novel. It's a full color graphic novel, by the way. It's 280 pages, 200 which are done. The script is done. And it's a form of creative release for me, and I feel like it will connect with readers out there. And I think that, whether it's escapism that you, as a consumer of escapism, whether you're watching a movie or reading a book or whatnot, or playing a video game, even, you're getting that sort of like feeling of escape. And then also, it, like I'm saying in this one, is like a fictional sort of revenge tale, which is a unique, particular sort of escapism. But then there's also creative outlets for people if they want to write poetry or write protest signs or get together with people to make a plan of action as a community to protect LGBTQ plus people in their lives, or people of color in their lives, sending out messages to immigrant communities who are maybe feeling threatened by ICE. I saw somebody like putting out a sort of like a not a time lapse, but like a series of informative, hey, if you are threatened by ICE or feel the worried about ICE, these are the things that you can legally do to protect yourself. And I feel like that sort of thing, just to be able to look out for one another, is so often we're feeling powerless. Yeah, we can vote, maybe we can protest and call, but there's also like something to be said for creativity, either whether you're creating it or whether you're consuming it. I feel like it's good. It's a good way to escape sort of the stuff that's out of our control, and give us that sort of feeling of hope, whether it's something you're making yourself or something you're consuming yourself. And when I say consume, I mean like a book or a movie or a show or a or a video game or whatnot. I don't know that that's a good answer to your question, Jordan. It's a big one. I mean, like, ideally we'd get a injection of fountain of youth in Bernie Sanders and have him be 55 again, and give him a little bit more piss and vinegar to where he wouldn't not, I don't want to say roll over, but be as friendly as he was to his good friend Joe. I haven't seen anybody step up yet. I would love to see a Rashida Tlaib, has pretty much, or Ilhan Omar. I know she can't run for president, but Rashida could. But I know like so many people would be immediately on her case for not being white and a male. But I would hope that there would be somebody who will ascend. And if people, there's the whole thing, if you can run for office locally, do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And tell people, I know you're doing this through Kickstarter, so you're up against a deadline. So I'll put the link in the description. But how can people support?
Yeah, thank you so much. Again, this is live on Kickstarter for another 9 days. We're about to cross the 70% funding threshold, and Kickstarter is a crowdfunding website where it's all or nothing. So if you bid on it or put a pledge in and it doesn't reach my target amount, then you don't get charged, and I don't get paid. So I have to hit that target in order for the book to become a reality. And I'm printing it oversized. It's soft cover because printing hardcover is just so expensive. So I'm printing it soft cover, but it's going to be oversized. It's going to be a couple inches. Like a normal comic book is this size, but it's going to be a couple inches bigger each way. This is like 7 by 10. It's going to be 8.5 or 8.25 by 12.25. So it'll be a little bit bigger. It'll look great on your coffee table. That's the cover. It'll be a good thing to have on your Thanksgiving table or coffee table when maybe that annoying uncle comes over who rushes to bootleg Billionaires. I feel like there's, again, because I've borrowed so much statistics and facts from our world, that and I'm not beating people over the head with like leftism, And it's more of like a looking upwards at the people who are, you know, coming down with the boot on our necks. I feel like it's something that's not going to necessarily feel to people as if it's, you know, just progressivism, socialism kicking them in the face. It's going to be something where I feel like it's hopefully eye-opening to those who haven't really thought about the oppression that's happening in our lives, and, you know, seen through fiction, maybe being able to relate that way. You know, you hear people that will watch a story or watch a movie or read a book, and they go, "Wow, that was great. Oh wait, that's kind of like this analogy to the real world or my life, or, you know, maybe I'll be nicer to, you know, my neighbor who's, you know, doesn't look exactly like me," that kind of thing.
Right.
You know, just those little changes to make people open their eyes. You know, I would imagine you agree with that, and you encounter that a lot talking to people out on the street, Jordan. You know, people seeing allies perhaps in some of the protests or some of the problems that people go with. I know you cover a lot of stuff where people are really suffering from, you know, be it lead in the water, or, you know, to your recent battery coverage stuff, where, you know, maybe people wouldn't acknowledge there's an ally who they wouldn't have expected, or, you know, maybe this regulation got cut by a guy or a gal I voted for. Like, why did they do that? I thought they were there for me, or I thought it wasn't going to affect me. If, you know, there's so often in politics, people, you know, you hear about people not really relating things to from their vote to people's lives until it affects them directly. Anyhow, I'm probably getting a little off topic, but my book has another 9 days to get funded on Kickstarter. If people are able to pledge, that's fantastic. It's so very appreciated. I can't express enough how, like, heartwarming and inspiring and invigorating it is to you know, see people post that they've pledged support, but also you know, whether or not you can financially help me out. If you can jump on social media, I'm on all the social medias at Jim DiBartolo, and I'm on all the socials there. Give me a follow, and if you can help me spread the word about the book, that is so very important, because again, I don't have like a marketing budget. Jordan was like amazing enough to invite me on after some emails and everything I sent him. I truly, like, you are very unique, Jordan, and even with your small staff and everything that you're you know, you guys are clearly seeing things, because to the fact that you were kind enough to see it and reply to me and have me on is greatly appreciated and so very helpful.
Well, you were just a pest, so it's fine. No, you gotta be. You gotta advocate to get your message out, and I'm happy to do it. And everybody, if you can, throw in a couple bucks. Let's get this out there. You know, my skill is not graphic. I can't draw for shit, but I sure would love to have that on my coffee table, particularly to show my father. So my MAGA loving father.
Yeah, it doesn't. There's no mistaking like what the title means, you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you, sir. We'll put all the info in the description, and let's keep in touch.
Thank you, Jordan. It sounds terrific. Appreciate it. Bye, everybody.